Okay, if you were looking for a sign that a recession is upon us, that we are really looking at an economic downturn, recession happens to that.
Nah, bitch, because we are in a fucking recession. You know how many blonde bad bitches that I know are converted to brunettes, black hair?
Have you noticed that all of the trends for this year are really just ways to make spending less money cool?
Yeah, my outfit is plain, but did you even notice the subtle color coordination? Do you understand the roots of this fit in recession core?
You really know we've reached late-stage capitalism when food and drinks have become status symbols and accessories.
Oh, yay, how I love spending $8 to burn away the pain of existing. What? Don't you just love burning your money?
If you've been on the internet the past month, chances are you've heard about a recession being just around the corner. The thing is, this is utterly unsurprising when it's felt like we've been in a recession for years now. Between inflation, layoffs, and the housing crisis, the economic sentiment has gotten so bleak that it's earned itself a new name, the vibe session. But the funny thing about being in a vibe session is that even though we technically haven't reached recession status yet, the shift in culture tells us a lot about where we're headed. As wallets run empty, basic life necessities are becoming exclusive, and aspirations have shifted to simply living a middle-class life. But it doesn't stop there. Even food, a basic human necessity, has become the epitome of luxury and status, with Ballerina Farm and Nara Smith glorifying home-cooked meals and whole ingredients, as well as celebrities using food for decoration. All the meanwhile, millennial moms can't even afford to buy their toddlers grapes. The modern American dream is no longer 2.5 kids and a white picket fence, but being able to buy yourself groceries and make yourself dinner in your one-bedroom apartment. So let's get into it, how the silent recession is making basic living a luxury, and how these cultural indicators show that if we're not already in a recession, we're barreling towards one. Of all the struggles of the vibe session, skyrocketing grocery prices have definitely hit the hardest. And for many families, the idea of eating healthy on top of that just feels out of reach. But that's why I'm excited to share with you today's sponsor, who is Thrive Market. If you haven't heard of Thrive Market before, they are an online membership-based grocery store offering the highest quality products delivered to your door with savings on every order. They make healthy eating easy and attainable to all with their variety of health food options, a low price promise, and free shipping over $49. I've got my box right here, and I want to show what I got. I was partially shopping for staple items as well as snacks for the kids. If you're a mom, you know how hard it is to find healthy snacks that your kids will actually eat. I also got some little fruit bites for them, some elderberry gummies, because if you remember last video, I got so sick right after that, so we needed to stock up. And then I just got a bunch of essentials like some balsamic vinegar, ghee, almond butter, bone broth. This is not an essential, but white truffle olive oil. The other reason I really love Thrive is because of their Thrives Gives initiative, which makes it possible for low-income families, teachers, and veterans to access natural and organic foods and products easily. For every paid membership, Thrive donates a free membership to someone in need. So if you would like to take the pressure off of healthy eating and get your Thrive groceries delivered to your door, then click the link in the description or go to thrivemarket.com/AshleyEmbers and receive 30% off your first order and a free gift worth up to $60 when you join Thrive Market today. We have enough to worry about in today's economic and political climate, and keeping your data online private shouldn't be one of them. But this is difficult when there's data brokers whose only job is to collect information about us from online and offline sources and sell it to third parties without our knowledge. And that's why I'm excited to share with you today's sponsor, who is Delete Me. In order to protect myself from data brokers, I use Delete Me as it makes it quick and easy and safe to remove your personal data online. When you sign up, all you have to do is submit your personal information for removal from search engines and data broker sites, and their experts find and remove personal information for you. As well, Delete Me provides ongoing protection as they remove your information all year long, and you get regular privacy reports telling you what they found about you, where they found it, and what they removed. So if you would like to use Delete Me to help protect your personal data, you can get 20% off Delete Me consumer plans when you go to joindeleteme.com/embers and use promo code embers at checkout. So the idea of being in a recession is probably not surprising to you because, like I said, it's felt like we've been in one for years.
Does anyone else think it feels like a recession right now? To me, it feels like we're in some sort of depression, recession. I feel like every time I go out, stores are really empty, restaurants are super quiet. It's feel like everything has slowed down a lot.
COVID really messed things up economically, and since then, our countries have been fighting so hard to not financially implode. And so far, they've technically done that, while for you and me, it feels like we're in a recession because people can't afford things like eggs anymore. The price has increased 59% over the past year. We still technically haven't reached recession status because there's a specific threshold that we haven't crossed yet. So we just get to suffer in silence for now. But this recession threshold is defined as 2 consecutive quarters of negative economic growth as measured by a country's gross domestic product, or GDP. And while there have been negative quarters of growth over the past 5 years, quite a few in Canada, we haven't had it back to back. So according to this, we're all good. Funny enough, in Canada, we did have a rough 2023 and got close to hitting a recession, but actually avoided it because of an increase in our immigration numbers. By bringing more people into the country, the GDP increased because it's partially based on how much people are spending. If it was not for the population growth that we had last year, the Canadian economy would have been in a recession at the end of 2023. With more people coming to Canada, more money is being spent overall, even if each individual has been spending less money as they feel the pressures of a more sluggish economy. Which, from someone who's not economically educated, this seems kind of crazy. Like, even though the average person is feeling the pressures of a recession, they won't call it one because of a definition that, in my opinion, is not reflective of how the economy actually is. It's just frustrating because people have pulled back so much on non-essential spending because we can't afford anything, but because there's more spending overall with more people, they can gaslight us into thinking that the economy is okay. It's just unfortunate for all the people who can barely make ends meet that they don't even get the satisfaction of calling this a recession. But there is a bit of a relief in that since people of both countries have been feeling the squeeze of this economy, they've given it a non-official name, one other than Vibe Session, and that is a silent recession. Because the general sentiment of the public is not good. 56% of Americans believe that our economy, which is adding jobs in the hundreds of thousands each month, is in a recession. Because things have obviously gone downhill since 2020, where people can't afford the same life that they lived in, say, 2015. I, for one, knew that we were screwed when my favorite butter got to $8 a pound. Like I said, I don't know much, but I do know that that doesn't happen in a good market. And this slow, subtle downturn of the economy has really screwed up the middle class. We see it with delays in milestones like homeownership and retirement plans.
Who are these economists that can look the American people in the eye and tell us that we're not in a silent depression? 100 million Americans have been closed out of buying a house because they need $120,000 of income with no credit cards, no car payment, and no student loans.
We've been dealing with rampant inflation and subpar wages. So whether this is a pre-recession or a soft landing, as they call it, the fact is that people don't have money to spend and are without hope that this situation will get any better. But no matter what we call this financial crisis we're in, we do see that it affects not just our living circumstances, but our media and our culture as well. Because with our budgets tightening and our pennies pinched, our spending habits are leaving their mark on society. From the clothes that we wear to the media that we consume, it all changes during economic downturns. And on TikTok, at least, they're calling this phenomenon recession core. As we dive into recession core, it's important to recognize why trends like these matter, and that's because consumer sentiment can be a strong indicator of a looming recession. If we go back in time to previous recessions, we can see that there are always signs of the middle class struggling before one hits. One of those signifiers is in fashion with the hemline theory, which suggests a correlation between the length of a woman's skirt and the state of the economy. This theory suggests that skirts become shorter when markets are on the rise and get longer during economic downturns. And so as the market worsens, hemlines drop past the knee to reflect that no one's having a good time. In the 1920s, we had the above the knee flapper skirt, which was short for its time, until we got hit with the Great Depression, when skirts stayed below knee length until about the 1940s. And then in the 1960s, we saw the emergence of the mini skirt during their strong financial times. But then of course came the 80s recession and the rise of the midi-length skirt popped up. Basically, when times get tough, people have no energy to look flirtatious and like they're enjoying life. But this is just one of many cultural shifts that reflect the financial health of a country. So let's look at the current indicators that we might be in the midst of a recession, aka recession core. The most interesting being that the middle class is trending. What that means is essentially whatever the middle class can afford right now is the new it thing. We have the rise of old money blonde and recession brunette, where people are going back to their natural hair colors because they can't afford to go to the salon every month for root touch-ups. We also went from the 2020 maximalist fashion styles with 90s neon colors, tie-dye, pattern mixing, to 2025 fashion, which is more of a pared down capsule wardrobe of simple but classy basics. This includes recession core, of course, which embraces affordable everyday fashion and reusing the clothes that you already have. Coastal grandmother, a relaxed yet refined style that often features light neutrals, natural textures, and a focus on comfort. Cottage core, featuring flowy dresses and earthy tones, emphasizing simplicity, and is also very tied to the tradwife movement. Fisherman core, with cozy sweaters, knit caps, rugged boots, and anything nautical inspired. And even my favorite, divorced dad core, a relaxed, comfortable aesthetic with cargo shorts, graphic tees, and sneakers, just reflecting the vibe of a divorced dad in the early 2000s. And what all these things have in common is that during a cost of living crisis, the last thing that people want to spend their money on is unattainable and exorbitant fashion trends. Whatever little money they do have, they want to spend on timeless and even minimalistic clothing pieces that can be mixed and matched with everything in their closet. And while these trends might be new, like fisherman core, they're still tied to old recession cues like the tradwife/coquette aesthetic, which, you guessed it, has long hemlines. Tell me we're not in a recession. The point being, during economic downturns, fashion becomes more drab. Vibrant colors and extravagant accessories are swapped out for more practical and modest pieces to reflect the general sentiment of the people. A more fun indication of these trying times is the return of recession pop. This is something new to economic projection trends as it first came onto the scene post-2008 crash. If you haven't heard of recession pop yet, it is described as high BPM electronic dance pop emerging during the Great Recession and focuses on themes such as partying and living life to the fullest. Some paragons of the genre include Pitbull, Lady Gaga, and the Black Eyed Peas. If you're a millennial or an older Gen Z, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about because pop music just hit different in the 2010s. Every song was a bop and made you want to dance and live like you don't have another day of life because, well, at least that's how our parents felt financially. Anyways, side note, I don't know how, but I had no idea that we were in a recession in 2008. Like, I know in Canada, we weren't hit as hard, but I feel like as a 14-year-old, someone must have told me what was going on in the economy. Like, how was I that old but completely oblivious to the state of the world? It's like that TikTok trend of when your parents are trying to not lose the house during the 2008 crash, meanwhile you're upstairs playing Wii or Guitar Hero. I was just completely oblivious, maybe for the best. But back on track, there was a big lull in pop music between 2015 and 2021-ish, where people were saying that there aren't any good up-and-coming pop stars at the moment. Well, all we needed was a silent recession to fix all of that, because now we have Charlie XCX, who has been on the scene for a long time but obviously just blew up, Chappell Roan, Sabrina Carpenter, and even Lady Gaga coming back with Abracadabra just in time for the S&P 500 to drop into correction territory for the first time in 3 years. But the reason this music hits so different is because it provides the escape that we need when times are tough. It's music that lets you forget about your problems and feel a sense of optimism with its upbeat and carefree lyrics. And while this trend isn't as reliable of a recession indicator, it's definitely the more enjoyable aspect of where we're at. But one of the more undeniable signs of the economic times is all the money-saving trends that we're seeing on TikTok. First, we had under consumption core, then Project Pan, and now, as of 2025, we're seeing the rise of no-buy years, all of which just reinforce that people are broke. Under consumption core was the first of these trends, like I said, in 2024, which had a good intention of encouraging people to spend less money on things that they don't need. These TikToks were all about keeping old items instead of replacing them or sharing alternatives to buying the newest trend. The funny thing about this, though, as many people have stated, is it's just like regular people showing regular life. Like, it's not normal to be shopping every month and keeping up with every trend, or to have a fully remodeled and aesthetic home. That's just what the influencers do, so we think that it's normal when it's not. Underconsumption core is just how middle-class people live, occasionally spending money, but not on everything. Project Pan is along the same vein, where your goal is to actually hit pan in your makeup before buying more. But this again is just regular life. It's not normal behavior, despite what the beauty gurus show you, to be constantly buying new makeup and filling drawers and drawers with that makeup that you aren't even going to use. And all of this has reached an apex of how are we not in a recession with the no buy 2025 trend, which is a commitment to a full year of buying nothing but essentials. On a similar note, the restocking niche on TikTok, I feel, plays into this scarcity mindset of consumerism as well. If you don't know about the restocking TikTok niche, it's very popular. It is just as it sounds. People are refilling containers in their house, but in an aesthetic and ASMR way. I think it's so popular right now not out of coincidence, but because of our economic state. It's aspirational to be able to refill and restock everything in your home. When a lot of people can't even afford basic necessities, it's nice to escape and see someone in abundance with their backstock fully filled. It's also a soothing experience watching strangers on TikTok organize their fridge and pantry in aesthetic ways, as everything has its place and fits together so nicely. It provides a sense of order and peace in our very chaotic and non-peaceful trade war times. As therapist Jake Ernst said here, it's controlled chaos. We feel at ease when watching someone turn something messy and chaotic into something more structured and controlled. Watching someone else organize their fridge gives us the same sense of accomplishment and task completion as the person doing the tasks. I just feel like it's very telling of the times that the influencers we gain inspiration from are the ones with full pantries and enough capital to buy special containers for them too. That's living the American dream. Okay, but the strangest trend that we're seeing right now is the rise of food as a status symbol. Now, food has always been used for more than just sustenance. It's a symbol of celebration and togetherness. But now its use is shifting even further away from necessity to luxury. Access to food, which was once a given for most people, now has a scarcity mindset around it, as inflation has hit our grocery bills hardest of all. The stat that I found about this says that food prices have risen a whopping 25.8% since November of 2020. But I think that's conservative. I know a lot of food products that have at least doubled since 2020. I've also seen TikToks of people comparing their online grocery order receipts 2 years ago, and they show way more of an increase than 25%. And with that, a lot of food items have become luxury items because we can only afford the bare essential groceries. Forget about buying pre-made meals, meats even, fancy dressings, and most of all, fruit. Fruit is not a food for the middle class anymore when blackberries are $10 for half a pint. That's what I saw in a fancy store the other day anyway. For inflation and shrinkflation, people hardly thought about food. It was always there in abundance and often taken for granted. Food is a necessity and a basic need in life, yet with global inflation and recession, food has now become a luxury for many and a necessity that is often out of reach. And so because of this, food has become a part of recession core, reflecting this theme of abundance, something hard to find in a cost of living crisis. As well, we're seeing that fancy smoothies are becoming the food identity of Gen Z, like their own version of millennials' avocado toast. For example, if you want to be a fitness influencer, you have to start your day with a well-balanced, protein-full smoothie. And this brings us into the topic of Erewhon. If you haven't heard of Erewhon, it's this new, cool hangout for the young, beautiful, and bored. It's where all the celebrities and influencers go to hang out and take pictures, and it's also just a grocery store. But the reason Erewhon is so special is because it's an upscale healthy food grocery store that's exclusive to the Los Angeles area. Said here, the store seems tailored for today's influencer culture. It's fastidiously curated assortment where foods are lit like fashion editorials and are often a combination of organic, gluten-free, biodynamic, free-range, and vegan, makes it ripe for snarky quips. It is also, as you can probably guess, plus extremely expensive. The reason I mentioned smoothies is because Erewhon is known for their $22 smoothies that every influencer has to pick up during their day in the life running errands videos. I first heard of Erewhon in probably 2023, where people on TikTok would go walk the aisles and share the prices of things, including a bag of spherical ice cubes for $50. Since then, people continue to share their exorbitant prices and find virality with each obnoxious price tag. It's interesting, I feel like Erewhon is maybe not taking over, but being incorporated into the luxury niche online, where people are excited to see how much others are spending on their groceries as opposed to, say, a designer handbag or something. But recently, a new Erewhon special has taken center stage, and that is with their $20 strawberry. Yes, that is $20 for one singular strawberry that comes in a cute little case. If you're wondering why these strawberries are $20 each, it's because they're flown in from Japan and apparently require a lot of skill and special technique to grow them. They gotta come up with some reason for the price tag, I guess. Also, when I was looking up information on this strawberry, I found this article titled, "I tried the viral $20 strawberry and it tasted like the end of the American Empire," and I just loved that and had to share it with you. But this strawberry, as I said, has been going viral on TikTok with every influencer sharing their experience tasting it to see if it's worth the price. And honestly, if I lived in LA, I would probably go try it too. Like, it's very intriguing. But while influencers are jumping on this trend, celebrities have been following suit, but not without backlash, of course, from the public. For the average person, trying a $20 strawberry is just a fun novelty, but when a wealthy celebrity does it and complains that they've wasted money on it, it doesn't land the same, because it's all fun and games until celebrities start cosplaying as poor. But this is just another tactic of the rich and famous to look more relatable, when in actuality, it's just tone deaf and feels like they're trying too hard to blend in with normal society. And this is our segue into the conversation of celebrity culture and luxury goods. As we know, celebrities have always been symbols of success and influence, and with that, their choices always reflect the current state of the world. So when we enter recession eras, we see things like celebrities not wearing as much jewelry on the runway to protect themselves from seeming out of touch with the times. Recession core is a move by the rich and elite from appearing ostentatious during economic strife. Just take it from Marie Antoinette: when the general public is doing it tough, shows of flashiness from the higher ups in society aren't exactly well received. So during economic downturns, we see this reflected by the way that they show their wealth, which right now is with food. Now, to me, this is the most dystopian part of the video, because food, which again is for consumption and nourishment, is now being used as a status symbol for the rich and famous. People who once used flower bouquets for table arrangements at events are now using fruit arrangements. These people who also, like I said, would wear high-end jewelry on red carpets are now once again wearing food. Something that the everyday person can barely afford is being put on display for visual appeal. For example, we have Rachel Antonoff's fashion label celebration with a series of food sculptures on display. And not even luxury foods, but everyday groceries like bread, cabbage, and tomatoes. And then we have Instagram florists who are incorporating food into their bouquets, like this one by Glenn Arvor, who uses food like zucchini. For the rich and famous, household produce is the new it product, and with that, the role of food has switched from necessity to accessory. Crazy. Adjacent to that, and my second favorite topic of this video, is that it's also bleeding into marketing. When food is seen as a special treat rather than a standard, it can now be used in marketing to draw people in. The best example of this that I've seen is with Hailey Bieber's brand Rhode, where the marketing is commonly done with food items like raspberries for their peptide lip tint and milk, yes milk, for their blushes. And the reason this ties back to another recession indicator is because of the lipstick index. The lipstick index is an economic theory that when consumers perceive that a recession is looming, sales for affordable luxury items such as lipstick increase. This is something that we saw during the Great Depression as well as the 2008 crash. There was a rise in lipstick sales because when people don't have money to spend, they'll still reserve a small amount of money to spend on little luxuries that are within a lower price range and provide an emotional uplift without breaking the bank. And this price range is usually around the cost of a tube of of lipstick. It's something that we are seeing currently as well. As of 2022, sales of lipstick and other lip makeup grew 48% in the first quarter over previous year, more than twice as fast as other products in the beauty category. But little luxuries don't stop at lipstick, of course. And this is how we found ourselves with the little treat trend of Gen Z and millennials, where they treat themselves to, say, a pastry or a coffee or any other little food luxury that's affordable enough to not break the bank, but still fancy enough to keep the horrors away. People currently don't have money to spend on high-end items, but a premium snack or coffee is a smaller indulgence that they might splurge on. And so because of that, there's no better way to market to Gen Z than as a little treat, because they're spending money on little treats anyway. That's why companies like Rhode pair their expensive lip peptides with luxury foods, because they're trying to make them seem like a small, affordable, everyday treat. I also just the other day saw that The Ordinary came out with an ad that they're selling eggs now. If you don't know, The Ordinary is an affordable skincare company, and it was super weird to see that. It wasn't that they were pairing food with their product. They had a kiosk of just selling eggs with their label on it. I also forgot to mention that the eggs that they were selling were super cheap, like under $4, and people were saying in the comments that this whole thing is just a marketing scheme to make you feel like their skincare products are also affordable. But the point being, the cost of living crisis has made food the new lipstick effect. They group unnecessarily expensive items with everyday purchases to make them seem as attainable as a morning coffee. And so goes another middle-class commonplace item becoming a symbol of luxury, like raspberries, milk, and coffee. Well, as it turns out, we may not need all of these indicators after all, because there's been so much talk of a recession just in the past few weeks. But the problem with recessions is that you don't know that you're in one until you're already deep into it, because you need those 2 negative growth quarters to identify it. And because of this, I personally will be taking all of those threats with a grain of salt, because they've been crying wolf about a recession since 2021. And honestly, I'm tired of stressing out about it. Like, even if tomorrow they came out and said, yes, we are in a recession, what would that change, you know? We're already dealing with it. Like, maybe that means that things are about to get economically worse, but how much more worse could they get? Knock on wood. I don't have wood. My point is that it could just be a label and then we all get to move on with our lives. I do also feel that if or when they officially announce a recession, there would be this sense of relief that we've hit rock bottom, and maybe that means we'll start climbing out of it again, because right now it just feels like we're falling in a bottomless pit of unaffordability. But something nice that we can look forward to potentially as we move through this period is that we're likely going to be getting more aspirational content, which will at least give us an outlet during our dark times. If we look back to the 2008 crash, it was a lot of escapism content, and I think we're seeing that starting to come out. While a lot of aspirational content feels out of touch right now still, I really feel like that's where we're going next, because people are getting exhausted of all the doom and gloom media. But a perfect example of this is the new Meghan Markle Netflix series. In it, she invites friends over and they do crafts and cook some meals, but there's not really like a theme behind it all. It just looks really pretty. And while it's been getting a lot of hate for being super out of touch, it might be what we need right now in a lot of ways, maybe.
What's going on with this Meghan Markle show? Okay, because I'm seeing a lot of drama about it. I love the show. Like, I think it's so fun because personally, I'm so invested in all this lifestyle.
And honestly, I feel that way too. The show came out last month when I was down with the flu. Side note, thank you to everyone who commented wishing me better health, because when I filmed that video, that was the day before I was stuck in bed for a week and it was horrible. But anyways, while I was down for the count, nothing made me feel better while I was shaking with cold sweats in my bed than watching Meghan pretend to be a beekeeper and pretend to be a chef. I'm sure she's good at cooking, but she definitely isn't a beekeeper. Like, she says that they're her bees, but she hired a beekeeper to do all the work. And she said that she hadn't seen the bees in months. You have to check on bees every week during the summer. It's just like, sorry, that was a tangent, but it was just the idealistic and aspirational world that I needed when I was feeling so sick. And like I said, I think we're going to be getting more escapism content coming our way. Think of HGTV during the 2010s. That was so popular, seeing people renovate their homes and do glow ups and makeovers and everything. Like, people were losing their houses, but we had some beautiful TV to watch. And while I'm always talking about being informed, that's literally what my channel is about, we need both sides of it, right? We can't just live vicariously through our screens of the royal family frolicking through fields, but we also don't want to become nihilistic from the news cycle either. Okay, final thoughts. First of all, I just found this video so interesting to research and learn about how consumer markets reflect the flow of the economy. And it was almost comforting knowing that we are going through that cycle, because then maybe we're coming out of it, you know? At the same time, super weird that the middle class is trending. Not something I thought I'd ever see, especially being a 2010s kid, or like being in my teens and early 20s in the 2010s when everything was aspirational content. But despite how silly it is that the middle class aesthetic is trending, it still is a net positive, because it's encouraging people to live more minimally and spend more conservatively, which is especially important during these times when everything might be on the verge of crashing and burning. Anything anti-materialism is a good thing, even if it's just for the short term. But the whole food trend thing was super weird. We should be buying our food to eat, and specifically we should be buying our food from Thrive Market if you want healthy food delivered to your house. And that's your reminder to check out Thrive Market if you're interested in 30% off your first order and that free gift worth up to $60. Link is in the description. But that's all I have for today. Thank you for sitting with me and talking about the recession. I wish you all many, many berries for your children. Bye.
Today I was rummaging through my cupboards thinking I just need a snack, I need a sweet treat. I need something to just, make me feel alive, you know what I mean? So I was rummaging, I'm looking, I'm saying, where is it? Where is it? I look in the fridge, I need a sweet treat, get me a sweet treat, right? And then I thought to myself, hang on a second, I'm overcomplicating this. I'm making this a very complicated, stressful process. What is the whole point of a sweet treat? It's to release the stress. It's to release the stress. So I went like this, I closed my eyes and I said, you. And I pointed and I saw a couple little biscuits and I saw beautiful hot chocolate. And I thought, you know what, that is the sweet treat it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be easy, it's supposed to be nice, it's supposed to be sweet, right?